Yeah! Lauren!
Stop! I love the time signature of that intro, man. I love it.
We're here for another list!
Yes, we are.
And it's a good one today.
Yeah, it is.
Top
Tell me,
5.
do you remember this commercial? Sega Saturn. Do you remember the very first one that they had?
No, I'm gonna have to check it out.
Everybody was like, "What the fuck was that?"
I remember the Japanese strong guy.
Oh, Sega Sanshiro.
Yes,
yeah.
I got Tatanshiro.
Those are the great. You know what? If they just would have released those commercials over here,
Oh, millions
I
sold.
think the Saturn would have done better.
So it's just explodes anywhere.
So he goes into space and sacrifices himself for the Sega time.
Shit.
What a fucking mess! I love that, man. Sega Saturn. Hey,
Sega Saturn
hi.
games.
We're gonna talk about the Sega Saturn.
And I only have. Well, you know what? You should start it off.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah.
Honorable mention for me.
Honorable mention.
Yes, this game came out on other consoles, but they couldn't touch this version. Came out in August of 1999, which is
99. That's pretty late.
eerily similar to the follow-up console coming out. It's from Capcom. That might narrow it down a little bit for you. It is Street Fighter Alpha 3.
Ah.
So,
The lesser known of them.
yes. So a lot of people will either talk about barely Alpha 1. Alpha 2 is where everybody goes. Alpha 3 blows both of them out of the water.
That's
It's not
the one
even
I would
close.
see arcade cabinets everywhere of.
It's Alpha 3 is hello.
Yeah.
So you got 35 different characters.
Which is a huge roster.
Massive roster.
Yeah.
But what made this version so good is the
A different
variables.
artistic style, too.
Very. So there was a reason for that. They were trying to dump off as many arcade boards as they could, and they had to, ironically, dummy down the art style. Because, the CPS2, whatever, the Super Street Fighter 2 system,
Yeah.
they had an excess of either that board or the board before it. And so the reason they had that kind of anime style, or the slight manga style,
Yeah, that's what I would call it.
was because the board could handle it better.
That's
So
funny.
that's it.
I actually didn't know that.
And so
I just thought they
the
wanted
03
to change it up just for the sake
and
of it.
it's also pretty cool. It
is pretty
seeing
cool.
a younger Ryu and a younger Ken, and right.
Did you ever play as Dan?
Dan, everybody hates Dan. Fuck Dan. No, I was always a Ryu guy.
Ryu?
I loved his story. I could connect to it better.
Yeah.
But there's a few guys that I could Chun-Li is still, she's balling, man. Anyway, the styles. That's the reason this game is number one, or for the alphas. So you got your three styles of play. You got A, you got X style, and you got V style. So A meant alpha, which was if you like how Alpha 1 and Alpha 2 work, stay with this. It's more of the same, right?
Yeah.
And then you had X, which was more of a Super Turbo, or Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. And the reason they called it X is in Japan they called that game Street Fighter X instead of Super
I also
Street
didn't
Fighter
know
2. That. And then in the third
They always
style,
put an X on everything.
I know, right? But also, while we're here, let's soapbox really quick. M. Bison here is the boxer in Japan because it's Mike Bison, but it's too close to Mike Tyson and they were scared to get sued. But why wouldn't they sue in Tokyo anyway?
Yeah.
Vega was not the guy falling off the wall. That was not. That was the M. Bison over there, right? Or no,
That's confusing.
that was Balrog.
Oh, Balrog. Okay.
Over there, and then Vega was M. Bison. So they just swapped all three of those names, and Sagat's Sagat because he was the end guy in the first game. But anyway, and then the third style is variable, and variable combo was you could choose your combo and stuff like that, right? And that would go on to get into Street Fighter 3, but depending on which way you went, X, A, or V, you were stronger or slower, or you were quicker and weaker, or you had better defense. If you chose X, you couldn't defend in the air. So it had all sorts of paper, rock, scissors style set up in that game. By far the best alpha. Not even close.
Okay.
And that's my honorable mention.
That's a pretty popular game, too.
It's really good. It's really good.
Yeah.
What about you, sir?
My honorable mention is Sega Rally Championship.
I mean, talk about great game, too.
Yeah. Not too many levels in this one. It was made by the Sega AM3 team. Released in 94, so very early in the life of the Saturn. To me, it's what started rally games, so like piquing my interest for good rally games.
Colin McRae and
yeah, Dirt and all the rest of those games that would
Yep.
come out years and years later.
Years later. But everybody owes themselves to something, right? And
Yeah.
you can trace almost all of it back to this.
Lots of Lancias in this one, and I just mean like that because there isn't many vehicles you can pick from. You got your Lancia Delta, Lancia Stratos, which is my favorite.
Yeah.
And you would have your Toyota Celica GT4. It's a pretty decent arcade port for the Saturn because like the arcade machine didn't have that many levels. I think there was like 3 levels, like desert, forest, and mountain. And then after you were done that's basically the game.
I mean, that was good enough for
Yeah.
kids hitting the quarters really hard, right? Like,
Yeah, and
that made sense.
You know what? The view is good. It's like that behind third-person perspective view, which I like. You can switch to inside if that's what you want to do. And this is what I played before your Gran Turismos and whatnot. So, to me, that's why it's my honorable mention. It's one of my first fun arcade port racing game because I have not played Daytona USA yet at this point.
Right. Right. That's a very important point, sir.
This came out before Daytona.
It sure did. So you could almost say this pioneered well, no, Virtua Racing did. Never mind.
Virtua Racing. Yeah.
Ignore me.
Yeah. So my number 5, and it's just because this was more fun. It's funny because this is the opposite of what Lauren just said. I preferred this one on Saturn than to the PlayStation, and I'm talking about Contra Legacy of War.
Okay.
Because
there's a few 2Ds that I prefer on Saturn. I think we're going to get to a few of them today.
So this one was released in 1997. It was developed by it was developed by Appaloosa Interactive and still made by Konami. This is the first third-person view 3D Contra game, and a lot of people harp on this, but I think they were really brave at the time for changing the recipe a little bit. Like it's been over a decade since the original Contras.
It's very hard to
Yeah, it's hard to change something and keep your audience, I like the music in this game, even though the graphics lack a lot, because you get a lot of, what's that called? A lot of, like, rendering that's done very late, so...
Right.
It's one of those early 3D games where the view isn't that great either.
Yeah, the clipping
you keep having to change your damn camera view because it's always in a shitty spot.
Oh, God.
But that being said, a really fun shoot 'em up Contra game. Like I will still say that this is one of the worst Contra games. But that being said, I played it all the time on Sega Saturn. So,
yeah. No, I get that.
Contra Legacy of War is my number 5.
Your number 5, my number 5. And this might be a little too low on the list, or whatever. Too low on the list. It could be higher. It might deserve to be higher. It might come up in your list.
Okay.
Probably.
Okay.
Developed by Sega AM2, which is AM2 is like the EAD of Sega. They're
in-house.
They're the premier. They're the premier in-house developer. May 1995. Yeah.
Daytona USA.
A near flawless conversion from the arcade. It's Daytona. Yeah, sure. The frame rate maybe suffers a little bit, but hey, it was still pretty playable. I would say the control is a little bit snappier. You're coming up on that first corner, and all of a sudden you're in the pit lane, and you're like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
Just
a classic game.
Left, until that or the analog controller came out.
Yeah.
Yeah, then it was a little better. There's no multiplayer in this one, though.
No, there isn't.
So instead, they just had more cars to choose from. So instead of having the automatic or manual, you actually had a few options. The Saturn mode shuts off the timer, so you can just do lap attacks as you want to.
Yeah, if you wanted.
But or you could do arcade mode. Like there's arcade mode or Saturn mode, right? And actually, I literally was playing this yesterday morning. While I was
awesome.
Testing out something. Maybe a non-Saturn way of playing this, but there's the endurance mode is pretty cool. The Grand Prix mode, so it makes you force pit stops. You take
just
damage,
like that real,
just like in the
realistic element to it.
And then you have like you take damage, and your car's like
starts wobbling,
vibrating
and
wobbling.
Starts looking all beat up,
and it literally it greatly reduces how far you can go before you have to pit if you take damage. So. You definitely want to avoid the walls in endurance mode. But
something I found funny about them making this game is that Sega mandated that this be better than 1993's Ridge Racer, made by Namco. So that was like some shots fired at Namco.
Ridge Racer.
Yeah. They told Sega told the team that this better be better.
Yu Suzuki.
Was
the
told
guy,
the team
right?
this better kill Ridge Racer. Like,
yep, and
because Namco was making a lot of money with that cabinet.
Oh yeah,
and Sega needed a cabinet that would rival Namco's Ridge Racer. And so that's why this game.
If you want spoiler alert, it didn't just rival it. This is
it blew it out of the water.
This is the best-selling arcade cabinet of all time.
Yeah.
Of any genre, of anything. More Daytona USA cabinets are probably still in retro arcades than any other game ever made. And so what a port. So you better nail that port when it's coming to your home console. And I feel like they did.
The reason I laughed earlier is that this is my number 3.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm sure I missed something. You're going to bring it up.
Yeah.
My number 4.
Okay.
Made your PlayStation list.
No way. That's funny.
Yes. And look, I think they play almost identical, so I threw it on my Saturn list instead. Made by Capcom. Released October 1997.
Oh, okay.
It involves the Repliforce. So I'm talking about Mega Man X4, of course.
Mega Man
X4.
That's funny that you like it on a different console than I do.
Yeah, I mean,
we're going back and forth on this.
I think I was just favoring the Saturn at that point.
Yeah.
And it hurts me to say this too, that like by 97, it was pretty clear which console was winning.
Which one was going ahead, yeah.
But when it came to 2D games, I still felt that there was, if you owned both, it was a disservice to yourself if you didn't get 2D games on the Saturn.
Yeah.
They just played better, to me.
Yeah. Except
for one, because Konami can go fuck themselves and they got lazy on the port. But I'm talking about Castlevania. Symphony of the Night on the Saturn is just unplayable shit. So yeah, anytime I tried to get a 2D game, it was on the Saturn, and this is no exception. So
yeah, it's a really good one. And again, you get to pick between Mega Man or Zero.
Yeah. So if you missed our PlayStation episode, you play as Zero. You have a little bit. You use this saber, and it's
lightsaber.
It's more of a Street Fighter style. When you're playing, right?
When you're playing Zero, yeah.
Yeah, and with Mega Man, with X, it's more traditional. You pick up your different beams.
Yeah,
and,
your Buster.
So you have your Mega Buster to begin with, and then you pick up your different attacks based on the
whichever hunters.
The Repliforce,
Mavericks.
The Mavericks.
Maverick Hunters.
And the story is that there's more than just the Mavericks now. Now there's the Repliforce and the Mavericks, and they are like a competing...
whoa, spoiler.
They're competing
Spoiler!
Faction.
Some people haven't even played this game.
27 years, fuck. Get over it. But you do have well, you know what? I'm going to spoil it too. Fucking Sigma comes back.
Sigma comes back. Spoilers!
Shock.
Yeah.
It was Sigma all along. So
where
anyway.
else have I seen this for? It couldn't be Dr. Wily, would it?
There's other cool characters like Double and wouldn't you know it, Double turns out to be a double agent, and his name is Double. Fuck Capcom. Come on, man. Like, you could have given us a little. And then Magma Dragoon, that's a cool character.
That is a cool character.
I really want I want Proto to find a way into this world, you know? But
It's never gonna happen.
no, because they're never going to make another Mega Man.
Yeah.
But honestly, X4, probably one of the best.
One of the last good ones.
Yeah.
I mean, this went all the way up to like on consoles, I think to X8.
It
And
went
then-
to X8.
And then they started
X7
making
is,
yeah,
wow, is it bad.
yeah. There's some bad ones up there.
Oh, yeah. But no, X4, 5, and 6 are all quite playable.
Yeah.
They have a much brighter, more fluid style than X1, 2, 3.
Yeah, it's
hardware,
quicker.
Hardware limitations, right?
Yeah.
But this one is one of the best.
They also changed the kind of
The soundtrack
animation
is a little bit
and
more
whatnot on here. It's less pixelated and shit.
Soundtrack's a little bit more or
Yeah, techno
electronic
in-house.
or EDM
Yeah.
instead of just that rock kind of
Yeah.
style. Yeah.
It's a great game.
It's a solid ass game.
Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I just realized there's no Sonic on my list whatsoever.
Me neither.
Wow.
There was better games for me to play on this console.
No kidding. You're number 4.
Die Hard arcade game.
Yeah, that's a good. Talk about perfect arcade conversions.
Yeah, made by AM1, Sega AM1, released in '96. It's awesome to play with a friend. It's a third-person It's almost top-down, depending what level you're in. It's basically a beat-em-up view, 3D beat-em-up. You have cool bosses to beat. You have weapons you can pick up. This is one of the games where, without counting Space Ace or Dragon's Lair into it, this is one of the first games that I remember. What's it called? Quick time scenarios.
Oh yeah.
Like where it's like press A now.
QTEs.
Yeah.
QuickTime events.
QuickTime events. Press A now. Move joystick left, right. Like at a very specific time, and it's really awesome to do because like one of them, it's like press the joystick left, right, and it's like you like clotheslining someone while you're running past them just to go through the scene, and if you do that, then you can skip a scene where you'd have to like fight a bunch of bad guys.
Yeah.
So there's an incentive of saving your health in this game.
It's more of a, it's not an all or none system. It's a bonus system, which I love because I hate QTEs that are all or none. You know, like that's part of why the older God of War games, I actually don't love them because a lot of the QuickTime events.
It's too much. It's
just,
oversaturated.
It kills the flow for
Yeah.
me. I don't know.
But
These
one's
ones are much more like they're bonus laden, right?
You would see this cabinet at prestigious places like the Jasper Fairmont and whatnot.
Ooh.
Yeah. Where I would play it.
Where we would just drive by as we were going to our campsite. What's your number 3?
We already talked about it. Daytona, USA.
Hell yeah.
Daytona.
Daytona. I love that song, man. It's
We don't need to go any further into this.
fucking cheese.
It's cheese. It's Daytona.
You could talk about the 3 levels.
Well, okay. Well, you'd get like your beginner level, which is just like an oval track.
Yeah,
which
I
is,
think it's 8 laps.
Yeah, really classic. It
Gotta do
gets you
8
to
laps
have
around,
the
like, simplest.
to get use of the controls in the game.
And I do believe the oval is actually Daytona accurate.
Yeah.
Like it is Daytona. So like
Very cool.
Like the very first corner is like the mild one. The second one's like the sharp one that's banked that everybody fucking slams.
Everybody
on that
slams into somebody else right into the wall at that section
Yeah.
to just make sure you can keep going forward.
One. Yep. But your very first time playing it, you're like, oh, I got this. And
Yeah.
You don't got this.
And then the second one's called what? Either intermediate or novice?
Intermediate and
Yeah.
then advanced.
And that one's kind of like your. Is that the one with a bunch of overpasses?
2 is the one with or intermediate is the one with the bridge.
Yeah.
3 advanced. Fuck.
Advanced is difficult. Lots of
we gotta
braking
go back
in that
and
one.
grind that.
Dude,
We gotta go back and play it.
we gotta find cabinets for that.
Beercade? Still there anymore?
They got rid of them. Years ago. Oh yeah. Years ago, the one good thing they
I'll
had,
call
they
it
got
to
rid of
Matthew.
it.
I'll see if Matthew has one.
Okay.
And then we'll go out to Short Circuit Arcade. You want to hear my number 3?
Oh yeah. What is your number 3, sir?
My number 3, I believe somebody we all know shit on it during the PlayStation game. It's Virtua Fighter 2. Also made by Sega AM2.
It was an okay fighter.
Okay, Virtua Fighter 1 was
The moon jumping
was
one.
an okay fighter.
Yeah.
Virtua Fighter 2,
It tightened up a couple things.
it was like it was all brand new hardware.
Yeah.
Because it was.
Yeah.
So This is
It's a good port. Like, I rented it before.
so. This is literally the game that launched the Model 2 arcade cabinet hardware.
Yeah.
So everything else before this, Virtua Fighter, Virtua Racing, was all done on Model 1.
Yeah, AM1.
Model 2 was beast mode, and the cool thing about the Model 2 is Yu Suzuki, the main guy that was keeping Sega alive at this point. He helped develop it, and he got it on his hands, a Lockheed Martin military texture mapping thing that they used for flight simulation, which is like, holy shit. How'd you even get this to begin with? Like, you're probably talking a $500,000 machine, and the chip, the proprietary chip in it, who knows the cost that they put into developing this chip. He reverse engineered it down to $50. How was this guy not hired by
NASA?
any military intelligence on the planet? Thank God we got him in video game entertainment.
Hell yeah.
So that's how we got the Model 2 board. That's what Virtua Fighter 2 was launched on, was who knows how expensive a Lockheed Martin texture mapping chip reverse engineered down to make Virtua Fighter 2. Love this game.
Pretty funny.
The texture mapping on the polygons, like nothing done before this. So everything before this was just like really ugly triangles. This
very
actually
blocky.
put textures on the triangles, and for the first time we went, holy shit, 3D's here.
Yeah.
Like, this game blew my mind. The Saturn is a poor man's Model 2. They literally reversed the Model 2 down to make it cheaper, and that's what the Sega Saturn's built off of. 2 of them. So, shock and surprise, Virtua Fighter 2 runs flawlessly on this system.
Yeah.
You literally, the only thing you can tell the difference is the background. They couldn't render it in real time. So instead, what's Sega phenomenally good at? Doing that super scaling, right? Like, like
they are good
Monocle
at doing
GP, Afterburner, like all those. They
Yeah.
look so 3D, but it's all pixel. So all the background is super scaling, while the like polygonal square where you're fighting is all 3D, and the result is, I argue, it looks better than the arcade, because it's really cool, man.
Okay.
So Virtua Fighter 2 makes my list.
No more moon jumping.
But it's fun. It's fun. Get the timing down. That's it. And honestly, like the counter throws in Virtua Fighter 2 are so
Those
fun,
are
man.
awesome.
Like,
Yeah,
just
those
take
are fun
someone's
to do.
punch and just and judo them over their head.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so fun, man.
Reversals are always fun to do.
But enough about Virtua Fighter 2. You don't like it. You're gonna love my number 2 though.
Let's hear it.
Okay. Made by SNK, and that should be all you need to know.
Yeah.
April 1996. Look, this came out on PlayStation 2.
Okay.
But you know who makes the best 2D games?
Sega Saturn.
The Saturn. Sega Tasanshiro. It's Metal Slug.
Oh, what a great game.
Hell yeah, man. Metal
Fuck
Slug.
yeah.
Contra-style run and gun. So anybody that's never seen it, but on fucking steroids. Like,
Yes.
The sprites are massive. The explosions are even bigger. Like, it's all so fluid. Like,
All these
60
sweet
frames
guns.
per second all the time.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah,
And then,
way better guns.
Yeah, and the music style for this game is like, it feels like a rushed jazz djent style.
Yeah.
Like, it's very busy. Every track's very, very busy. So
Yeah.
it makes it for that, like, oh man, am I going to make it through this level? I better keep pushing forward attitude the entire time.
Yeah, no, it's definitely high intensity the entire way.
Yeah.
Like, it almost to me feels like metal, like the SNK sat down and watched Contra and Wild Guns,
Yeah.
and we're like,
what if we put them
put
together?
these together and make
Yeah.
a wicked game, right? Everything
I
about
do love the cartoony artistic style to this game.
Yeah, like it's definitely like cartoon scrunch down, big, fat bodies.
The bosses are so fun.
They're huge,
When you get to the
massive.
bosses, it's so fun.
Massive,
Yeah.
and like the
Big mechanical
like that
machines or
wicked Neo
tanks.
Geo style of like how the boss like flashes every time you hit it.
Yeah. Very
and,
cool to see.
I mean, before before the weaker thans in us started getting epileptic seizures, and we had to stop doing that shit. Arcades used to be cool.
Damn it.
Anyway, we the tanks. You jump in a tank just to try to preserve your health, and they ended up being really cool. And like when you shot, it like sent you back a little bit.
Oh, you mean jump into a metal slug?
Yes. The the massive boss fights, the 6 different areas, just everything, and the snow level. Like, I
very
fucking
cool.
love snow levels, man.
Yeah.
Metal Slug 2, or Metal Slug. That's my number 2.
That's a good number 2.
Yeah.
I love that game.
And
I
it
actually never
plays
rented that one.
Perfect on the Saturn, man.
Any slowdown?
None.
Really?
None.
That's impressive.
None. It runs damn near flawlessly. It's that dual chip.
Yeah.
That's what, like, 2D games on Saturn, they run damn beautifully.
And it's a great game. I only ever played it on arcade.
Oh yeah.
My number 2, cue the music, is Duke Nukem 3D. This was my favorite port of the game because I went and played this on computer first, clearly, because it was the way to do things.
Right.
But then when it started coming out on consoles, man, when it came out for Sega Saturn, like, the music was good. Like, Lobotomy Software did a really good job doing this,
And that, like, Saturn's biggest, their 2 biggest competitor, PlayStation and the laughable 3DO. The 3DO had almost nothing but, like, first-person dungeon crawling style.
Yeah.
And they played terribly.
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 And this one, Sega, the publisher was Sega. They didn't even do a port of this game. They used Lobotomy Software game engine, so they redid the whole thing. They used Slave Driver engine, which had much better dynamic lighting, which you wanted in this game, because some spots are dark.
Yes.
And it was great music. The sound was really smooth in this, and playing it on a 6-button controller was great.
Oh, yeah.
Like, playing Duke Nukem on a 6-button controller, this would be the best way for me to play it other than on PC.
That's also why Street Fighter Alpha 3 is on my list over a PlayStation list, because the controller made that game.
Yeah.
Made that game.
It just feels better with 6 controllers and that D-pad.
Oh.
That D-pad, like, I kind of miss playing that D-pad sometimes.
Still my number 1 retro controller.
Do you want? Should I? I'll do my number 1 and you do your number 1.
Sure.
My number 1, and it should come as to no surprise, is Fire Pro Wrestling 6-Man Scramble.
Shock! We're gonna have 2 number 1s that's gonna surprise absolutely nobody in the house, including these 2 cats.
This was a Japanese released only, 1996. It's the first 6-player wrestling game. Did I have 6 friends to play this game back in the day? No, I didn't.
Hey, I didn't have 10 friends to play Bomberman either, but
but like, this one was a bit. This one surpassed Super Fire Pro Wrestling Premium X for Super Nintendo.
Ooh.
To me, because there's more variations of apron moves and vaults over the ropes. I personally love playing with this controller over the Super Nintendo controller for this style of game.
yeah.
It just feels better.
I keep telling you, it's a better controller, dude.
Yes. And
It
because
really
they called
is.
it a 6-man scramble, there's a big emphasis on tag team wrestling in this one. So instead of going for the Triple Crown Championship as a single star, it's a very big emphasis on the World's Strongest Tag Determination League.
Cool.
So you get your tag team dual championships, and huge roster, bigger than the Super Nintendo one. We're talking like probably over 250 wrestlers or more.
It blows my mind, dude.
Yeah. Lots of wrestlers, and you can also create, I think, up to 60 or 80 in this game.
Holy man.
So like the replayability of this game is through the roof. And
if we went back to your like top 5 or top 6 wrestling games, where does this land? Does it land in the top 10?
This would definitely be the top 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's huge.
Yeah. I put this up there with Super Fire Pro Wrestling
Yeah.
Premium X on Super Nintendo.
So it's
up there with the
heavy
World
chops,
Tour and
man.
whatnot.
Heavy chops. If it's coming from Tom, it's a good wrestling game.
This is one you want to check out, especially if you can get 5 more friends. I know you can do the 8 players on the PlayStation 2 variant. Like you get 2 4-player blocks and you plug them in, but this is the first one where it's 6 players. You can do 3 versus 3 tag team, which was the first time, which is very cool, kind of almost a Survivor Series style. of tag up match, and you have this was released in '96. And you have like your Evil Crow Sting, the NWO's there. It's the first game of the NWO. Like the Four Horsemen are there.
Yeah.
You get your WWF wrestlers during the early WWF Raw beginning of Attitude. So you get a lot of cool wrestlers from that golden age of
literally
90s
the
of
best
wrestling.
era.
You know,
I know others would call other eras the golden age, but
that was
the
the golden
age.
The mid 90s to very early like 2000, 99. That was the period.
That's it.
Yeah. But that's
Hell
why
yeah.
that's a big reason why this game
that's
is
a
good
great
to me,
number one.
is because there's lots of wrestlers with the attires that they would be wearing in the mid-late 90s, which is very cool to see, which you would never see again. So it was very, very awesome. How about you, sir?
Well, let's see here.
What is your number one?
I'll tell you what, Tom, if you can guess what my number one is,
Mm-hmm.
we'll just end the episode right here.
If I can guess, can I get one clue?
You don't need a clue.
I don't need a clue. And this is Sega Saturn.
Yeah.
Okay, can I get one fake guess?
Sure.
Panzer Dragoon.
That is a good... I mean, it's
Okay,
not a bad
so
game.
it's not that. And we said that it's not a Sonic game.
No.
So is it a popular game?
Now,
Now it is.
it's Japan only.
Japan only.
There's your only hint. I'm actually shocked at this point that you're still thinking. We might as well get through it and not end
Okay,
early.
I don't know.
Made in July 1998. I'm not even going to tell you who made it, because you'll know immediately. Who made it, Tom?
I'm going to guess Konami.
Made by Treasure.
Oh, good lord.
You know the game. Come
Fuck's
on.
sakes.
It's Radiant Silvergun.
Yeah, Radiant Silvergun.
This
keeps popping back up in these lists all
I'll
the
tell
time.
you what, it's going to keep fucking popping up until you play it, and then you'll understand why. So,
I could have totally guessed that.
this game,
I could have guessed that.
I'll give you the plot point, okay? So it follows
It's a
group
shoot 'em up. That's the
It's a
plot.
shoot 'em up. It follows a group of pilots. So this is in like deep future, right?
Yeah.
And they are a I guess you call galactic defense force, but they're an Earth defense force, and they orbit the Earth. And this is during an era where they've discovered a crystal. It's buried deep in the Earth, and they, like any human race would, they fuck around and they find out. So they dug it up and they start doing experiments on it, and the crystal awakens and it says and it blows up Earth. So in the intro of this game, Earth is destroyed. Okay, and the only surviving humans are on this orbiting space station that are meant to defend Earth. So fast forward a year later, they are running out of food, running out of water, and they decide, okay, we have to make a last-ditch kamikaze effort to go and destroy this crystal and its big robot guardian and try to restore some kind of life for Earth. And that's the intro of the game, and then boom, your ship comes down, and it's called the Silvergun, and it's radiant. And 10 people made this game.
That's a small team.
10 people. And that includes my man, jeez, pause. That includes my man, Hitoshi Sakamoto. That's the guy that composed Final Fantasy Tactics music and Radiant fucking Silvergun right afterwards. This is kind of more of the same. It's music that maybe it was a little more fitting to Final Fantasy Tactics, like same kind of style, but in the end, it fits the game so well.
That's what matters.
So well. Boy, this guy's just a genius, man. So this thing's all about comboing. It's not just about surviving, because other shooters, you avoid getting hit and you shoot as much as you can down. Try to get power-ups. Well, there are no power-ups in this game. You've got your 6 weapons and your sword, and that's it. So the only way you power these up is by comboing colors. So you got red ships, blue ships, and yellow ships, and you try to shoot 3 of each, and always in 3s. And if you can stick to one color forever, whatever gun you kill them with powers up.
Yeah, that's a good.
Right?
That's a good way of doing.
It's
games.
a very cool system, man, and the replayability Because if you try to stick to only red patterns and then next time you play it, stick to blue only, it's a totally different
Changes
way
it
of
up a
playing the
bit.
game, right?
Yeah.
And it might mean you have to go right side of the screen through obstacles instead of left side of the screen, and then like killing the bosses in order to try to power up your weapons, because it's not just one boss, there's always 5 components, and you don't have to kill all 5. You could just kill the head and then kill everything, right?
Yeah.
But if you kill all of it, your gun powers up more, and then when you get to the final stages, you might actually survive. If you don't kill and you just kill the head of the boss, you're fucked. You're not making it to the end, man, because it's like the law of inevitability. There's so many bullets on screen by the end that you will not survive. So it's more of kill them before they can kill you, and if your weapons aren't strong enough, you're not going to do it. Many consider it responsible for the Japanese arcade industry reviving.
Just this one game.
This
Gets all
one,
this praise.
This game was so big, they secretly had, I think they hired a dozen of the best like shoot 'em up players in Japan, and secretly had them playtest this game to find a way to make it like perfect.
Yeah.
This came out in the arcade first, on that Saturn, the Titan board, which was the lighter Model 2 version, which is identical to a Sega Saturn. So they ported it to a Sega Saturn like 3 months later. But while this was in the arcade, the main developer of the game, the main programmer, would secretly go in disguise to arcades to see people's like upfront reaction to the game, so that he could bring more to the Saturn version. And the Saturn version is actually better than
kind
the
of
arcade.
a scout.
Yeah, so everything about this game, if it wasn't for this one game, there might not be shoot 'em ups in the arcades anymore, because the fighting games were absolutely dominating.
Yeah,
and
they were at that.
It wasn't even close. Like Street Fighter, Tekken, right?
Mortal
Even
Kombat.
Darkstalkers, Marvel vs. Capcom, they didn't stand a chance. And then this one game changed everything. And Doronpachi and Battle Garaga and all those games came out in the Japanese arcades, and it just shifted everything away from fighting games, just like that. So this is the one game, and of course it's my number one.
Of course, it's your number one. It's Radiant Silver Gun. How many more times am I going to hear about this game?
Well, I don't know. We got a shoot 'em up list coming.
Well, thanks for checking us out, everyone. This is our top Sega Saturn games.
I loved making this list because the Saturn never gets enough love.
No, it doesn't. It's kind of like that forgotten child.
It is. And I mean, they're actually not that expensive to pick up these days.
They're fairly cheap, even if you get the
Japanese
action
games,
replay.
The action replay is a must, because then you can get Japanese games and play it on an American
action
or
replay,
Japanese.
think of like a big memory card you put into your console in the back, and then it just allows you to, it unlocks it so you can play Japanese titles, which are far cheaper than your American.
But make sure it's the Action Replay Pro 4 meg.
Yes. Has to be 4 megabytes.
Yeah.
Minimum.
And that one will unlock it so you can play any region on your Sega Saturn. And it's worth it. The Saturn games are so, like the Japanese ones are so cheap. Like the Street Fighter Alpha 2, I think I got for $10.
Yeah.
So
inexpensive compared to $50 or more here.
Yeah, absolutely worth it to play around with that console even today.
Yeah.
But yeah, I appreciate everybody listening to this list, and subscribe, listen to the future ones, because they're coming.
See you, everyone.
Bye-bye.